The worst sufferers in any war is women and children. My God, when you look at the devastation they had to put up with, it makes you want to cry, actually.
We are also demonstrating in San Francisco, in Washington, D.C., in London, in Rome, in Baghdad, in Vietnam, in Japan, in Tokyo, all over this world. 1,192 days and nights on this pavement saying, "Stop killing kids." Those people have been killed every single day for 12 long years by USA, by UK. Stop the genocide against the people of Iraq. Bring our troops home now.
There are people in the military who are refusing to kill. They're refusing to be killers. They're refusing to be torturers, and they are refusing to be rapists.
In the year since American forces invaded Iraq, we've learned hundreds of American soldiers have broken the law and gone AWOL, absent without leave. He was a staff sergeant and squad leader. But he says he started to have doubts about what his unit was doing in Ramadi, a hot spot in the Sunni Triangle. Mejia's family is Nicaraguan and he lives in Miami, but he is not an American citizen. Like some 40,000 soldiers in the armed forces, he is a legal permanent U.S. resident. Last fall, Sergeant Mejia was having difficulties with his legal status and was allowed to return to Miami for 2 weeks to work out the residency problem. But then he refused to return to Iraq. He felt so strongly about his decision that he took the risky step of going public and talking to us while still in hiding. Why did this soldier go AWOL?
This soldier went AWOL because this soldier does not think that this is a good war. And when you look at the war and you look at the reasons that took us to war, and you don't find that any of the things that we were told that we were going to war for turned out to be true, when you don't find that there were weapons of mass destruction, and when you don't find that there was a link between Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda, and you see that you're not helping the people, and you see that the people don't want you there, to me, there's no military contract and no military duty that is going to justify being a part of that war.
You've been a fugitive?
Yes.
Because you broke American military law?
Yes.
There's no doubt that in your mind that you broke the law?
Right.
You're a criminal, correct?
I don't consider myself a criminal, but...
Well, by dictionary definition, if you break the law, that's a crime. Those who commit crimes are criminals. Correct?
Well, I sort of disagree because for you to break the law has to be upheld.
By that, Sergeant Mejia says he means the war in Iraq should be considered illegal. He also says he signed a contract to serve 8 years with the Army and the National Guard, and he served those 8 years. Then, he says, the Army did what it's done to thousands of soldiers and ordered him to serve more time because of the war.
went to Iraq and I was an instrument of violence, and now I have decided to become an instrument of peace.
Camilo was sentenced a 1 year, the same as the ones who follow orders and torture prisoners in Iraq. He refused to do that, and that's why he was put in jail.
And I saw this man go down, and I saw him being dragged through a pool of his own blood, and that shocked me.
But you were a soldier.
Yes.
You know, war is hell. You get there, it's worse than you ever think it is. Yes, he died. Yes, there was blood. Yes, it's terrible, but isn't that, or is it the way of war?
Yes, you're supposed to do that. Yes, you're supposed to shoot at people. You know, you know in your mind that if you go to a war, you're not going to be shooting at plastic targets. Nothing that you do in training prepares you for a moment like that.
Camilo was recently adopted by Amnesty International as a prisoner of conscience because of his moral beliefs. And we are demanding, and Amnesty International is demanding now to release Camilo immediately and unconditionally.
When I joined, my family knew. It wasn't as if I didn't communicate with my family. They all knew I was depressed, and I think they all sensed that was a factor in me joining. When I joined, my mom says, well, don't worry, when you decide to get out, we'll support you then too.
I get a lot of questions saying, you know, oh, I'm so sorry that your son's in the brig, and, you know, what can we do to help? And, oh, you know, you must be so worried. And I respond simply by saying I in a way feel very relieved, because the alternative would be for him to be walking some desert sand somewhere, not knowing, you know, where the next shot would come from.
Well, they deprive you of sleep, and they deprive you of individuality. You can't say the word I. You can't, you always have to say this recruit. And you have to shout out kill constantly. They have kill contests where the most hardcore recruit, you know, wins, or the hardcore platoon. And you you learn how to fight, and you shout kill when you're fighting. You know, you'd be like kill, kill, and kick and kill. It's just, most people fake it, and I faked it. You say Bill or Phil or anything because it's so unnatural.
My daughter, Caitlin Funk, Steve's sister, was very instrumental in helping Steve to come out. She is a tireless political activist. She encouraged Steve at first to, you know, speak out at rallies.
They don't recruit black people or minorities, they recruit white people. That's who they want to be as officers. And because of that, you still have the situation with all the white officers sending minorities out to die first.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why you know, about being gay, I don't like don't ask, don't tell. It helps the military perpetuate anti-gay sentiments, but if as it is right now we just got rid of it and said gay people can be in the military, what I perceive to happen is what would happen when black people and minorities were allowed to be in the military. They were killed, they were sent out to die. They were the scouts, they were all the dangerous jobs. I think the same thing would happen with gay people.
They gave Steve a 6-month sentence where the maximum is a year for unauthorized absence. They gave him 6 months as a kind of a compromise because they knew there was some public interest still out there.
My name's Ray Hewitt. I joined the army when I was 16 years old, and I went off to fight in Iraq when I was 19 years old. I've seen what Blair and Bush haven't. I'm a reservist in the British Army. I won't fight in Iraq. And the second message, if you're listening, Blair, bring our troops home.
My name's Sue Webster. I'm the wife of Abdullah Webster. He's a US troop, convert to Islam. He is currently serving a jail sentence of 14 months for refusal to go to Iraq. He is a prisoner of conscience. He has realised that this war is about lies, and as a Muslim, he is not allowed to participate in it.
They had portrayed him as a traitor. They had portrayed him as a coward. He was in an environment where he was sharing cells and sharing mess halls with the soldiers who were committing crimes in Iraq. So the impact of all that's happened does impact on the family a lot. We've got a little 2-year-old daughter. She's now only got one parent, and she's just afraid that Mummy's going to go away just like Daddy. What I try to do now is I split my hours between schoolwork, being a mum, and petitioning on behalf of my husband. My mother-in-law in Florida, she's the one where it's hit most hardly. She bravely bears up and puts on a brave face whenever my husband speaks to her. When her only remaining son was now going to be incarcerated for a belief, for wanting peace. It nearly finished her off. We are looking to overturn these 14 months and, if possible, to actually see about getting back an acknowledgement of the 20 years of his life he has given to the military. My resolve, as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, is to, while there's breath in me, it's to make sure that that does happen.
Military Families Speak Out has close to 2,000 military families who are members of it now. There are two different groups of people. There are parents, like I am, and then there are spouses. And in a community like Fayetteville, we have a lot more military spouses than we do parents. And so, you know, it's this group of women who sometimes with their husband's approval and sometimes without their husband's approval speak out against the war. We're building a coalition of local groups to have a targeted counter-recruiting campaign. One of the first things that we're going to do is to target school boards, because what a lot of people don't realize is that with the implementation of No Child Left Behind, there was created a federal mandate for every high school to give a list to recruiters of all the eligible children who attend that high school. And parents have the opportunity to opt their child out of that. Because the reality is, if you get a kid from a poor neighborhood in the way the United States is structured right now, and he's looking at being able to go in the military and make $20,000 when he's 18 or 19 years old versus taking a minimum wage service job, you know, you got to have some pretty good arguments to keep him from going towards the military. So this remarkable woman named Rose Gentle, whose son Gordon was killed outside of Basra in June. He was a kid who was recruited at the unemployment office, given 6 months of training and sent to Iraq, and he died 30 days after he got there. He was 19 years old.
My son wasn't just killed in Iraq, my son was killed by this government. Tony Blair killed my son, and I swore I would let him know it. And I'm determined to keep going with this campaign to bring all the troops home.
It isn't moral to kill because you signed a contract. It isn't right to destroy culture and the environment and people's lives and cause so much devastation just because the president says it's okay or because your higher ups say it's okay.
Well, come on, all of you big, strong men. Uncle Sam needs your help again. Yeah, he's got himself in a...
The last generation, in the first Gulf War, there was only 111 accepted conscious objectives. But they had, the generation before them was Vietnam, when there was 200,000.
This is not the war I want to be in. I have no interest in killing people nor in being killed.
There is also a political opposition to the draft based on opposition to the Vietnam War. This is the leftist Free University in New York, which gives no credits or degrees. And this is a forum on how to avoid the draft. Admission $1, free for draft-age men. The speaker is Steve Newman of a group known as the May 2nd Movement.
You don't want to serve for any number of valid reasons, then there's ways to get out. And since we approve of any way anybody gets out of these wars, we're putting together a booklet that's going to run down everything that we've been able to find out on how you can personally get out of serving. Ways to fill out the forms, ways to stall for 20 days, ways to stall for a year, what kind of statements you should make, and so on. This booklet will also talk about the standard things that have been done over and over. Business of feigning madness, homosexuality, the bureaucratic ways of getting out, the conscientious objector ways. People are even talking about new ways that they're going to make up just for this purpose, like forming ad hoc churches that they're going to be ministers of and get out of it that way.
And it's 5, 6, 7, open up the pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die. Yeah, come on, Wall Street, don't be slow. Why, man, this is war a go-go. There's plenty good money.
It was an anti-draft rally at Love Park, and not wanting to be left out, I went down there and didn't have a draft card, so I pulled out my library card and just burned it real quick so nobody could see, and because I wanted to make that statement. There was a large anti-war underground movement throughout the country, in Mexico and Canada. And I was scurried underground to a convent in Baltimore, where I stayed underground for about 5 to 6 months. These Catholic nuns were just incredible. They were obviously against the war, and how many people they helped to protest the war, I have no idea. I paid $75 for fake parents, which if I ever got caught, I had parents in Texas who fortunately I never had to call. They came after my family here in Philadelphia, just constantly grilling them and coming up and interviewing them. They were pretty sure that my father knew where I was, and actually he didn't. I had very little contact. That was the hardest thing, was that contact had to be very sporadic. I couldn't, use the phone or the mail system, and I had to trust that people would get messages back. One of my close friends, Larry, was a full-blooded Native American from Christmas, Florida. There was a reservation on Christmas, Florida. And he kind of hinted, although again the confidentiality thing, you had to be clear, that there was a large number of Native Americans who apparently went to reservations. Certainly on Christmas, Florida, he hinted that there were a large number of anti-draft and anti-war resistors who were maybe hiding out on a reservation.
Well, come on, generals, let's move fast. Your big chances come at last. Now you can go out and get those reds, because the only good commie is the one that's dead, and you know that peace can only be won.
In April 1971, the organization known as Vietnam Veterans Against the War demonstrated in Washington. Some 1,000 veterans took part, throwing their combat medals and ribbons at the Capitol steps.
Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die.
There were countless demonstrations around the country and the world. The U.S. soldiers, empowered by the support of the people against the war, became restless, unruly, and difficult to command. Eventually, it became dangerous for the commanding officers to control the troops. Incidences of destruction to military equipment and machinery increased, as did incidences of fragging. Soldiers who sympathized with the North Vietnamese carried their rifles upside down and drew peace signs on their helmets. It became apparent to President Nixon that the mission in Vietnam had to be aborted.
When we went to the United States from the Caribbean, approximately about 3,000 of us, and this camp, we couldn't understand it because the one side of the camp was Black Americans and the other side is white Americans. So we go over to the mess hall that is white Americans, and they say, you don't want to have anything to do with those guys. No good. So we go over the black side and say, oh, you don't want to have anything to do with those guys. They're no good. So we say, well, we don't give a damn because we're here for a limited period because we're waiting for a convoy taking us to Europe to get into the war. However, in Germany, after the war was finished, and the Americans, boys, some of our boys were in the bar, and one came over, he says, hey, nigga, when my cigarette finished, you wanted to get out of here. So of course, one of our boys didn't take any notice. So when he decided to come back over to see, he's gonna put this guy out. So this guy said, okay, let's have it. And they beat him in his face and there was a fight. And we're getting lots of fights with the American because we make them know this is Germany, not in the United States, the southern states. So they respect us for that because we didn't take any damn nonsense from them.
I'd like to read you something from the memoirs of an Italian prisoner from the Second World War. He was caught by the Germans in Rhodes when Italy swapped over from the Allied side in 1943 and leaving Germany to fight the war by themselves. He says, son, if one day you will cast your vote for peace. War is destruction, not welfare. It brings about bereavement, tears, disease, harshness. It is God's chastisement to humanity. Well, this man was my father. His memoirs are dedicated to me. I was 6 months old.
I didn't raise my son to be a soldier. I brought him up to be my pride and joy. Who dares to put a gun upon his shoulder to shoot some other mother's darling boy?
The basic truth of my refusal is that I was never convinced that Palestinians are my enemies.
Free Camilo and bring our troops home.
All these disabilities is what is happening as well to the children in Iraq.
It's not right, and people know it's not right, and if you go along with it anyway, you're really gonna regret it.
I could not find a single good reason for having been there and having shot at people, having been shot at.
I think it's time for us to unify as people around the world, as survivors, as family members, as supporters, to stand up and say we will not go silently because it's now time for us to fully embrace who we are in a humanitarian global community.
Our example can be taken just as an example, and people who can take inspiration from that for their own sorts of refusal.
What are we starting off on?
Okay, ready to go?
Okay, and Santa goes in first, and as soon as we bust out a new
ho, ho, ho. Happy holidays. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho.
Start stopping, I feel the stomp starting. Get ready, the fear is departing. Start stopping, I feel the stomp starting. Get ready, the fear is departing. Start stopping, I feel the stomp starting. Get ready, the fear is departing.
Doesn't cost you anything.
Christmas Eve,
Oh, oh, oh.
Christmas doesn't seem so bright.
Hello, little one.
Finances are tight.